Good evening. It's Thursday, July 16th, 7:36 p.m. and Worldometer has reset. It's time to look at the hottest news, the latest numbers. For today, number one in new cases was USA at 71,670. Second, Brazil, 39,000. India, third, 32,000. South Africa, fourth, 12,000. It's pretty much remained the same. Death-wise, Brazil 1,261, USA 997, Mexico 836, India 614. Now, America is very reluctant to admit 1,000 deaths. If we look 2 days ago, the number changed 3 times. It was in the higher 900s, and then once it reset it, a couple of hours ago, it was at past 1,000. And then just now that I'm checking it, it's back down to 935. So there's a lot of tinkering going around in worldometers, showing you how unreliable it is with all the backtracking and the data. Now let's go to U.S. state by state. I think it's a new record. Florida number one with 13,900 new cases. Right as Disneyland opens up completely. Can you believe that? Texas second, 10,000. California third, 9,000. Georgia fourth, 3,000. In terms of deaths, Florida also has the most deaths, 156. Texas second, 134. California third, 128. South Carolina fourth, 72. So Florida looking like the next epicenter, at least from what's being reported. If we look at LA County right here where I am, where the virus doesn't exist and the masks kill people, almost 5,000 LA cases. It's really been skyrocketing lately. And 56 deaths. Orange and Riverside on the right behind. San Diego catching up. Imperial, they might have given up on Imperial because it kind of fell off. Imperial was the worst hit county. It's just a shame, really. A shame. But also, we can't ignore the veterans, the military, see where they're at. Because they're having some pretty high numbers and nobody really wants to talk about them. Shamefully. Oh, Puerto Rico as well. So Puerto Rico is also still new cases, new deaths. 831 new veterans. Wow. Well, first they had a problem with being homeless, and now they have a problem with dying. That's the progress of the U.S. That's how much the U.S. cares about its veterans. It doesn't care at all. Military reported no new cases. That's peculiar. 145 in federal prisons. So that's today's numbers. Horrible. And it's getting worse and worse and worse, as Teddy says. Now for the hottest news. A Tennessee doctor says he became severely ill with a case of SARS-2 he caught from attending a meeting about how to prevent the spread of the disease. I mean, I laughed for quite a while when I read that, because the absurdity that we've seen as a result of the pandemic it's so horrible. Sometimes you just can't help but laugh, honestly. SARS-2 spreading rapidly in LA workplaces that ignore safety rules. Fast food workers strike, alleging inadequate SARS-2 protection in the workplace. One Burger King staffer died of the virus after managers ignored her symptoms. Garment factories, meatpacking plants among LA County workplaces with the worst SARS-2 outbreaks. This is common across the nation. They are large employers with high numbers of low-wage workers, and they have workers who are spending long shifts together in close proximity and indoor spaces. Mutu said, early on, there were no requirements for masking and for physical distancing. LA reports 11 more SARS-2 cases. LAPD reports 11 more SARS-2 cases. Total now, 404 LAPD employees are now positive for SARS-2. California, now facing a 5-fold increase in infections. Merced County officials have abandoned contact tracing since 3 weeks ago. How are we going to abandon contact tracing? That's one of the most essential plans that counties have in order to track who might have the virus. If you don't have contact tracing, you're just letting people just You're just gonna watch people die. No one's gonna know. I guess like who was in touch with who. It's every man for themselves in Merced County now. Nearly 1,000 SARS-2 cases in California linked to daycare centers. Californians turn against each other amid second lockdown. Social media exploded with fury after Governor Newsom announced a second lockdown as businesses are desperate to open over loss of profits from the first one. Many residents are concerned over what the aftermath of the second lockdown could do. Is it asking too much to wear a mask? Elise Cole tweeted in a rush of anger. You can't have a healthy economy without a healthy community. Get a clue, please. Just wear a expletive mask, people. Actor Kobe Ryan McLaughlin tweeted, I want to get back to work. I want my kid to be able to socialize at school. I want to sit in a bar with my lady and have a drink. Stop being an expletive, especially you, Florida, and you too, California. Now, here in California, I quit my job because they don't care about our safety. After I quit, a couple of months later, they had positive cases there, and just people are just afraid. People are stressed out. Customers are bored, and they're coming in just to shop, not even for essential things. They're not even buying essential items because my job decided that they're still gonna sell everything, including things that are non-essential. So I said, goodbye. The next 2 weeks are shaping up to be critical for California as officials wait to see if the sweeping restrictions imposed in late June and July show any signs of slowing the rapid spread of SARS-2 in communities across the spread. Now, they're not going to help because the virus has just been so rampant, and testing is so far behind. It's going to be a disaster. The White House press secretary, the signs should not stand in the way of reopening schools as SARS-2 cases surge across the country. Many major school districts, including Los Angeles and Dallas, have announced plans to hold online-only classes. So that's just plain foolishness for the White House secretary to say that signs should not stand in the way of reopening schools. We've already seen that this virus can just decimate kids, give them brain damage, lung damage, and we still don't know why. We still don't know what are the chances. If you catch the virus, you're essentially playing Russian roulette, and I don't want to catch it and find out. I rather just stay safe. This is why a while back I shared an article about how a lot of parents out of fear are moving their kids to home studies. I mean, what I'm saying is great. What I'm saying is, some could say scary, but it's the truth. It's the reality. So what I would say is, just don't look at the world the way you want to look at it. Look at the world the way that it is, because it's really that bad. And like I said in the last video, it's not about being scared. It's about being cautious. Not so much that it makes you a coward. It's about staying informed and playing it smart and educating those around you, because this is not a virus that you want to catch. My dad goes out all the time, and he laughs at me when I try to give him advice. And if he catches it, maybe he can survive the virus, but he'll give it to me. Maybe I can die from it. So I have to deal with the anxiety of catching the virus, despite how careful I am. So we all have this dilemma going on, all of us. I'm pretty sure the most safest people, or the people that take the most precautions, live with other people that don't, and that's something that I think the media should talk about, because it would be a wake up call to all these houses and apartments that have people that are being careful, but have careless family, careless roommates, and they have to be educated. They have to listen. Something has to be done about that. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows said on Thursday that Fauci was wrong to liken SARS-2 to the 1918 flu pandemic, calling his remarks false and irresponsible. Now that's a really bad statement to make, because pandemics are historical. We have a history of pandemics, and the point of history is to learn from history. As it said right below the comment. However, those who don't learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat it, and we are already repeating it. We are already doomed. We are already repeating it. I won't even say we. Like those who don't want to listen, they're the ones that are repeating it. U.S. says Russian hackers are trying to steal SARS-2 vaccine research. A not publicized White House coronavirus task force document suggests 18 states, now in the red zone, should revert to more stringent protective measures, limiting social gatherings to 10 people or fewer, closing bars and gyms, and asking residents to wear masks at all times. Now, just a quick, if I could just put in the masks. The mask does not make you invincible. There are people that think that they can put on a mask and just go outside and they have complete resistance to the virus. That's false. The masks do protect, but they only protect to a certain extent. They're not perfect. And the virus will attach to your clothes. It'll be under your shoes. It can fall onto your skin. It can attach to your hair. So the mask is not gonna give you a full shielding of the virus. You can still catch it going out with a mask. So we have to abolish the myth that going out with a mask means that you're absolutely gonna not catch the virus. We have doctors with all this PPE, hundreds of doctors that are wearing PPE, and they are still catching the virus despite their efforts. And people think that just going out with a simple mask that is like not even top tier grade is going to protect them. Honestly, at this point, you need BSO 4 tier PPE to survive this. If this thing is really from a lab, like it's most likely from, the only way that you're not going to be able to catch it is by having BSL 4 tier PPE. If this is a lab agent, it would explain why so many doctors are catching it, because even their PPE is not enough. So, like the article says, according to the, I'll read one more time. A not publicized White House coronavirus task force document suggests 18 states, now in the red zone, should revert to more stringent protective measures, limiting social gatherings to 10 people or fewer, closing bars and gyms, and asking residents to wear masks at all times. The fact that it's not public makes no sense to me, Josh said Thursday. Why are we hiding this information from the American people? This should be published and updated every day. Stores around the U.S. are struggling with an unexpected shortage of coins. Now, well, this is not really a news story per se. I had talked about it weeks ago. Actually, weeks ago we had seen a shortage of coins, and the Federal Reserve just kind of sugarcoated it and said, "Oh, it's fine. We're slightly backed up, but we'll catch up again." And it's starting to catch up on them now. They are asking U.S. shoppers to pay with a card or produce exact change when possible. So I also posted an article a long time ago about how the SARS-2 pandemic is accelerating a cashless society, because the virus can't survive on dollar bills. So if you withdraw money from an ATM, I'll suggest that you don't touch the money with your bare hands. Put it in an envelope, and warn other people if you're paying them to not touch the money directly, because the virus can be on the money. You don't know where the money's been. It could be possibly contaminated, and you really can't play around. Like I said many times before, you can catch the virus making the smallest mistakes, and there are hundreds of thousands that don't know how they caught the virus. And the truth is that they weren't informed. They don't realize how easily it can be transmitted. U.S. SARS-2 data has already disappeared after the Trump administration shifted control from CDC to HHS. So we already knew this. It was blatantly obvious. Yesterday, I posted the article, or I talked about the article, how the information of the virus is transferred from the CDC to the White House, and there was fears of transparency. A couple of hours later, already the data is disappearing, and that's deliberate. They're trying to do a cover because it's getting so bad. They have to lie about the numbers, and they've been lying for months. Florida is bad now. They were lying about Florida's numbers months ago. So Florida was probably really bad way in the beginning, but it wasn't being reported honestly because there was a lot of fabrication, a lot of lying going on with the numbers. EU extends travel ban on Americans amid spike in U.S. SARS-2 cases. Now that's really ironic, because if you remember at the beginning of the U.S. pandemic, they had banned flight from from Europeans, and now it's the other way around, and the Europeans are banning the Americans from flight. So it's interesting how that kind of folded out when Trump made that big announcement about the pandemic. California, Orange County hides the list workplace SARS-2 outbreaks, saying it would hurt cooperation. Now, there are a lot of officials, authorities that do not want to post data out of fear of cooperation, out of fear of scaring the public. It's nothing more than a cover-up. The public deserves to know the truth. They deserve to know the numbers. So it's shameful that they want to hide the list of workplace SARS-2 outbreaks. It's completely shameful. Dow Jones Futures. Netflix earnings miss is a warning for SARS-2 stock market rally. How does Netflix dump? I don't understand. Everybody's at home and Netflix is dumping. I don't understand why Netflix would dump. I don't know. Tesla had dumped recently. So it's just confusing. I mean, one explanation could be that when the lockdown first started, a lot of Netflix accounts were made, and as the lockdowns were lifted, a lot of them were canceled. That could be a part of it. But the fact is, we still have a lot of people on lockdown, millions. So Netflix should not be really missing, unless what I'm saying is true to a certain extent. But the market is facing a massive crash. The Fed has pumped too much money into it, and they can't keep doing it. There has to be a point where they're gonna have to stop making up money, and they're gonna have to let it crumble and fall. And we're really close to that right now. 72 NFL players tested positive for SARS-2. So we're not gonna be able to save sports at all. They're trying, like I spoke. I think it was yesterday or the day before. They're trying to make masks that are supposed to be safer, or to prevent the spread of the virus. But overall, they shouldn't be having these events. Some countries I saw are having sporting events where they have robots as the audience, where they have robots cheering on the players. I mean, it's beyond me. Several central Ohio counties are seeing increases in SARS-2 infections that appear to be linked to people traveling from Arizona, Florida, and North Carolina. So there's really no escape. You can be one of the states that's contained the virus. You can be one of the countries that's contained the virus, but you will receive infected travelers through flight, and you'll essentially go back to square one. So I don't really see the possibility of anybody containing the virus, because as soon as you do, you're going to receive it infected from the outside. Either through deportations or flights or travels or road trips. The virus seems like it's going to circulate and circulate and circulate. And this is the beginning of it right here. A church in Charleston, West Virginia has moved their in-person service online after at least 24 congregants test positive for SARS-2. Now, these people are not going to listen because they're too blinded by their religion. And I said a million times now that the blood of Jesus is not going to protect you from the virus. Priests have died. Congregants have died. And yet they still want to keep doing it. I mean, at this point, they get what they deserve. Australian authorities are reluctant to go back into lockdown out of fears of more economic damage, adding on to what the first one already did. Now, Australia was hailed for its containment of the virus, and they slowly lost control, and now they're going back into lockdown. So, that's a shame, really. They were doing so well. Millions of American workers lost health insurance as SARS-2 pandemic worsened, and I'm one of them, unfortunately. According to a report from the Urban Institute, more than 10 million Americans are expected to lose employer-sponsored health coverage between April and December 2020. Now, if you have no health insurance, you are looking at a bill from the hospital that could potentially exceed $1 million. There are cases of people that were in the hospital for a long time battling the virus, and they left the hospital with a hospital bill that was over $1 million. So all these patients that are coming in that don't have health insurance or can't afford health insurance, what are they going to do about the bills? It is going to become the next student loan, the SARS-2 hospital bill loans. I mean, it's just outrageous. Prescriptions for anti-anxiety medications spiked this spring, and antidepressants like Zoloft have been added to the FDA's list of drugs experiencing shortages. Researchers say the increase during this time was likely connected to the quarantine, lack of social interaction, strict physical distancing, and the economic impact of the pandemic. Now, I can add to this. Uh, so, my mom is actually right now kind of depressed, and she is part of what I guess the group that is taking antidepressants. And it's weird because she's not a person that goes out, and yet she still feels that way. But I think it's just the how a lot of people feel that there's a lot of like hopelessness. And I tried to tell her that you gotta be strong. You gotta look at it like you're gonna make it in the end. It's not that you're being a coward. It's that you have to be cautious. But I definitely agree with this article that not only is the virus causing physical deaths, physical suffering, but its mental impact, its psychological impact could be devastatingly worse than the former. Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson issued an order Thursday requiring people to wear face masks in the public throughout the state, which has had a surge in SARS-2 cases over the past several weeks. Now that's not going to end well because we have a lot of people who don't believe in masks over some very I guess disappointing reasons to the point where people are dying over this. People are getting stabbed and shot over wearing masks at stores. It's really just bad, and we can blame pandemic and George. We can blame pandemic that encouraged the behavior. We can blame Andrew Kaufman, who said viruses don't exist. I mean, to say that a virus doesn't exist, that's just complete delusion. And yet people listen because they don't know any better. People listen because they're scared. They don't know anything about science, and these people seem like they know what they're talking about. But in reality, they're digging their graves for them. Iceland is broadcasting the world's screams to relieve SARS-2 stress. The campaign is lighthearted, but Promote Iceland still wants users to take mental health struggles during the pandemic seriously. That's how bad it's gotten. The people have to. People are making scream blogs towards the whole world to try to cope with the mental impact, the mental impacts of the virus. And then lastly, excuse me, USPS warns of late mail delivery after significant revenue loss amid SARS-2 pandemic. The Postal Service reported a $4.5 billion loss for the quarter ending in March. Now that's interesting. What's the impact of receiving late mail? I mean, people that receive mail, it's usually what bills, court summons, events with deadlines. So if you have an event with a deadline that you don't know of, and you receive this mail late, and because you receive the mail late, you miss the deadline. What happens there? Are you held liable, or are you allowed to extend and have some kind of a relief from this issue? So this is something that it's just happening, and people haven't really been thinking about it. I think it's very interesting. New York Governor Cuomo cites significant evidence New York City restaurants are violating social distancing rules and threatens closures. Now that's happening all over the world. Restaurants and bars and etc. To a certain extent, they're trying to do what's right because they have bills to pay and whatnot. But the fact that they're disregarding human life to do that is completely wrong. So if they get shut down, I mean, unfortunately, you get shut down. Unfortunately, your government is not helping relieve you from the shutdowns, and you're not doing anything about it. So, oh well. Australia extends SARS-2 restrictions to restaurants, cafes, and clubs. Again, Australia, who was hailed as a victor of the virus, is now getting just overall destroyed by a second wave. Spain has ordered the killing of nearly 100,000 mink on a farm after confirming many were carrying SARS-2, a regional minister said on Thursday. Now, we saw this before, and we also saw China kill, what was it, like 2 million mice or rats that were supposed to be sold for edible meat. So we know that animals can catch the virus, especially minks. and like I said, this isn't the first mink culling, but it's very concerning that not only is this happening, but it's not talked about very often, and it's not explained as to why it happens. People are just countries are just reporting this and not reporting the link that it's human to animal transfer. Idaho, an employee at Post Falls DMV has tested positive for SARS-2, prompting a temporary closure of the location. So the virus can strike anywhere, and now it strikes a DMV office. Now DMVs get packed; they get full of people. So if we had one employee in the DMV who was tested positive, who knows how many tested positive that were infected by him? There was a case. I don't know if I reported it, but there was a case of one gym member that went to a gym and ended up potentially infecting 72 other positive cases. So it's like it's still unknown how infectious it is really. I think its RO value was underplayed. I suspect that it can contaminate just by being on your skin, depending on the viral load. We still don't know, but it's just concerning that it seems virtually anywhere it can just spread and cause community outbreaks. Monsoon floods have swamped large parts of India's densely populated eastern states, forcing more than a million people into makeshift shelters despite the risk of SARS-2. Now we know China right now is flooded. China is flooded, and the WHO refuses to investigate the Wuhan lab, which is a huge red flag as to show how much of a sellout the WHO are, the WHO. And I'm pretty sure the excuse is going to be that, oh, the lab is flooded, which I really would not be surprised if they said that. But India, who is already being just devastated by the virus and now suffering from floods, and it's just a complete disaster. I mean, a lot of us feel that it's not that big of a deal, but but a lot of us are very sheltered, we're very spoiled, and we don't realize that this virus is ending millions of lives, causing destruction, suffering, panic. The world is slowly coming to an end because of the virus. And it just gets worse and worse and worse. Nothing seems to get better. Immunity doesn't last that long. Vaccines are failing. Some get too cocky, but no matter what they say, vaccines take months to complete, years to complete. I don't see a way out yet. So just brace yourselves and stay safe, stay educated, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.